I'm sorry, but my camera's not working. I'm sorry, but that's the case.
Okay.
Sorry that.
All right. Well, thank you. Ms. Duncan, will you go ahead and proceed with the roll call?
No problem. Good afternoon, everyone. Commissioner Amara?
Present.
Commissioner Evans?
Present.
Commissioner Karma?
Present.
Commissioner Little?
Present.
Commissioner McKinney? I see him on a call, but maybe his speaker is not working.
Okay.
Commissioner Moran requested an excused absence. Commissioner Park? Commissioner Preble? Commissioner Raynor?
Here.
Commissioner Reinhardt? Commissioner Usher?
Present.
Commissioner Wiggins?
Present.
And Commissioner Zula-Agar requested an excused absence.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the roll call, Ms. Duncan. And again, thank you all for being here today. As you all have in your presence, or should have in your presence, the agenda for today. At this point, we want to go ahead and follow up on Roman numeral 3, which is our chairperson updates. Do want to make a note that we want to switch that order, however. I do believe that our city assistant attorney, Ms. Keisha Red, is on the line. Ms. Red, are you there?
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. So again, we want to just change the order up a little bit and go ahead and give Ms. Red the floor to discuss our hearing training.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Takesha Red, and I'm an assistant city attorney here for the city of Winston-Salem, and I am assigned to support and advise our Human Relations DEI department. I apologize for the sound of my voice. This weather is causing me to have such a tickle in my throat, so if I have to stop in a fit of coughing and drink some water, please forgive me. As Dr. Christian mentioned, this is a hearing board training. One of the functions of the Human Relations Commission is to select a body of commissioners who are assigned to hear and adjudicate cases. Those would be fair housing cases, as well as cases that are brought under the city's non-discrimination ordinances. And if at any point in time anyone has a question or they can't hear me or anything like that, please feel free to just stop me and I'll address your question as we go. So before I do that, I guess I needed to ask this question. Dr. Christian, did they get to amend to adopt the bylaws or amend their bylaws at the last meeting? Okay, so that still needs to be done. I didn't see it on this agenda, but that will need to be done. And I apologize for not getting the handouts to Carlin so that she could get them to you. I know you all have binders that kind of have all of the Human Relations Commission information in one place. And so the way this will work, I'll go over these things generally. I want you to think of the hearing board as like a panel of jurors. So you get selected for jury duty. You go in, you don't have to be an expert about the subject matter, because whatever the case is dealing with, you will get the elements and whatever it is that you need to know in order to make a decision about the case before you. So I don't want you all to feel like you have to have a mini crash course in fair housing law. And I want you to embrace it, and I want this to be as fun as it can possibly be on this very lovely rainy Thursday evening. So what I want to do first is kind of go over an overview of what the hearing board is. As I mentioned, it is a body that sits within the Human Relations Commission as a whole, and its function is to hear and decide on fair housing cases. Now, there is in the, I think the other attachment that discussed the subcommittees, I think I think I saw where it said something about that the hearing board hears cases where there has been a determination of no cause. Either party, either the respondent or the complainant, can appeal to the hearing board. So it very well may be a respondent saying, I don't agree. I want to appeal to the hearing board. Either party has the ability to request that hearing. So I just wanted to point that out. But so as I said, my approach in having all of the human relations commissioners attend this training is, as I said, there are 5 people who will compose the hearing board. But I feel that this is information that is beneficial for all human relations commissioners to have. And in the event that someone has to move or they roll off or resign, I feel that if at least the entire Human Relations Commission has gone through this, it would be a lot easier to ensure that we have continuity in the composition of our hearing board. So that's why you all have to listen to me go on and on and on tonight. But as I said, so that's just the overview. At the end, let me one more housekeeping thing. So at the end of this presentation, I think if you look on your agenda, there's I think it's called selection. Let me get the agenda back up on my other screen. Nominations for, well, it's not on here.
It is. It's the HRC subcommittees.
Yes.
Yes.
So in that, what you all will do, the way the current bylaws are written, the chair or acting chair or vice chair, if there's not a chair, will make a recommendation of names of people who've shown interest in serving as a hearing board member. Then if there are people who aren't on that short list, who want to nominate themselves from the floor, they can do that as well. And then once you all have a slate of people, you would then vote on which members would go on to constitute the members of the hearing board. So as I said, it's 5 people. I imagine, and as I said, I don't want you all to feel like intimidated with the subject matter because you may feel like you don't know the law well enough to serve on the hearing board. I promise the reason that we are here is to give you the law in any situation. And so we just ask that you be open-minded, fair, impartial, and willing to consider the information put in front of you. Those really are the qualifications to serve on the hearing board. So as I mentioned, I won't go through our code of ordinances, but for anybody, I'll provide you with a copy of the ordinance that discusses the Human Relations Commission as a whole, what its functions are, and then lists what the Human Relations Hearing Board does. It's found in Chapter 38, Section 38 of the City Code of Ordinances, which can be found on MuniCode. As I said, I'll give Carlin a copy so that she can disseminate it to you all, and you can read it at your pleasure. And it's just good information to have because it talks about the purpose of the Human Relations Commission, the purpose of the hearing board, the process for handling a fair housing case, what those steps are, and it kind of and as well, same thing for the non-discrimination ordinances. So it would be a good reference document for you to have. But as I said, in the event that there's ever a case that will come before you, we'll give you all of the law that you need to make the decision about the case before you. So the way that it works is like there's a fair housing, we'll just use fair housing as an example. There's a fair housing complaint, and the complaint comes in, and the complaint is investigated, and let's say, no reasonable cause is found. case is closed. Investigations conducted, and there is cause found. And when I say cause, that means cause to believe that there has been a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Then what happens is that the investigators will make an effort to conciliate that case. And a conciliation is basically like a mediation. It's you know, will you agree to this? Will you agree to this? And you try to get the sides to come to some sort of resolution about the allegations made within the complaint. Two things happen. Either the conciliation attempts work and the case resolves, or the conciliation attempts don't work, and this is where you all come in. So if there's a case and conciliation breaks down and the parties can't agree, then either party can at that point in time say, hey, I want to go straight to court. And if that happens, the file comes to us. Or either party can say, you know what, I want to have my case heard administratively. So what that means is the hearing board then will have a meeting or schedule a meeting where they will hear information from both sides. The city attorney's office will provide the information because we would be, and I'm going to use these terms, prosecutors. We would be prosecuting or representing the city because we would be prosecuting the city's fair housing ordinance. And then the respondent is there. They can represent themselves. They can have counsel represent them if they elect to. So once that happens, the hearing board will hear evidence from both sides and then will deliberate to decide whether or not there is reason to believe that good cause exists to show that the fair housing law was violated. So let's say it was a case where a landlord refused to rent to a tenant because the tenant had children and the landlord didn't like children. Okay, so that's a clear violation of the fair housing law. But the landlord says, I don't care, I don't like kids. No, you can't rent my apartment. And we get involved. We find that there's a reasonable cause to believe that the landlord violated the fair housing statute. That's how we would issue the cause determination. The landlord says, I don't care, I don't want to conciliate, I don't care. Or the landlord says, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I disagree with this. I want a hearing. So you all get involved. As I said, we would have the case. You would listen to both sides. You would have the relevant portion of the Fair Housing Act, as well as a sheet that explains what we call them elements of proof. So basically, like all the boxes that have to be checked in order to find that there's a reasonable cause to believe that the fair housing ordinance has been violated. And once you make a determination, yes, that the investigator made the right call, this we believe is a fair housing violation, then the commission recommends to city council that the city attorney's office file a lawsuit against the respondent. If the commissioners, for whatever reason, said, you know, out of these 5 things that they are supposed, these 5 elements of proof, they only have 2, and they have to have all 5. We don't believe that they've met all the boxes for these reasons. Then you would issue a decision that you found that there was no violation of the fair housing, the city's fair housing ordinance, and then the case would be closed. So really, that is your role in all of this. I'd like to think that, as I said, it is not a requirement that you become experts in fair housing law in order to serve on the hearing board. As I said, it's just that you're willing to be fair and impartial. So that's kind of just a broad overview of how the process works and what the hearing board does. Before I move on to the actual guidelines for having a hearing under the fair housing ordinance, are there any questions? No? Okay. All right. So, excuse me.
Attorney Red,
Mhm.
I think I have a question simply because of my line of work.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have ever had law enforcement on the hearing board before, but would that be any type of conflict since the sheriff's office does do evictions and stuff like that?
Hmm. So conflicts are typically on a case-by-case basis. I would have to say it depends on what you do at the sheriff's office, because I know some people may be on the civil side where they do the judgment executions and padlockings and things of that nature, and then you might be on the SRO side and you don't deal with that at all. So it would really be a situation where, based on the type of work it is that you do at the sheriff's department, and or as an example, or it could be your relationship to one of the parties, right? In those instances, we rely on the individual commissioner, hearing board member, to say, hey, you know what, I can't hear this because I padlocked this woman out of her house and whatever, or this is my brother-in-law and I know he never makes repairs in his house, and so well, you don't have to give us that information, but for whatever it is internally that makes you think that it would be a conflict, we will take you at your word. If you say, hey, I need to sit this one out for these reasons, we don't require you to fill out an affidavit proving why you think it is a conflict, because, as I said, we realize this is a volunteer board, and we do appreciate your service, and we trust that you all have the ability to decide whether or not you can be fair and impartial, or whether or not there is something about a particular case that may become before you that you just don't feel comfortable hearing. So it wouldn't be an automatic bar. It would be a case-by-case basis. And so if something like that happened, what you would do is you would reach out to Carlin and Dr. Christian and kind of say, hey, this is what's going on. I don't feel comfortable for these reasons. Like I say, you don't have to get into great detail. You can just say, I know these people, I have a relationship with these people, and I believe that it may affect my ability to be fair and impartial. And then they would get me involved. I'd be like, okay, well, he's out. So that's how that works. But thank you. That's a very good question. And as I said, it might be, not just law enforcement, but maybe the parties. Maybe you used to be a tenant of one of the parties, or maybe you rented to one of the parties, because Winston-Salem, although it's big, it's not that big. So if anything like that does happen, just as I said, feel free to reach out to Carlin and Dr. Christian and let them know. And if need be, they can get me involved. But yes, we trust you all, and we trust your judgment. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. So, so let me back up. When we have these hearings, and by we, I mean the city attorney's office, we like to make these things as simple for you all as we possibly can. So if there is a hearing, we will give you a script. The presiding officer of the hearing board, we will give you a script, how to call the meeting to order, what to say to the parties. So you'll have the information. I just wanted to let you know that before I kind of got into this. But so, as I said, the meeting we'll just make up a time. It'd be at 6:00 on a Tuesday night. And because of one of the beautiful things about COVID, not much beautiful about it, but it allows us to meet virtually. And what we find is that works for a lot of people who may not be able to physically get here. So it may be a situation, I think one hearing I had where the respondents were in another state. And so they appeared by video, and the commissioners and all the city folks, we were here in person. That technology exists. We do need for, because this is considered, like I said, administrative hearing, it would be open to the public, but then closed, because the deliberations in that portion of the hearing proceedings, they are not open to the public. So as I said, once the hearing would start, it would be very similar to this meeting. The presiding officer would call the meeting to order. They would introduce himself or herself, and then the remaining hearing board members And then the parties would introduce themselves. The staff attorney would be me. And let me back up. Complainants are also free to hire their own attorneys if they decide they don't want the city to represent them. Because technically we represent the city of Winston-Salem. So if they say, well, we want to hire our own attorney, there may be 2 attorneys in the room. I've not had that happen, but the regulations do allow for that. So as I said, the complainant, a counsel for the complainant, or me, counsel for the city, will introduce themselves and any witnesses that they've brought who may have information to provide during the course of the hearing. Then the respondent or the respondent's attorney would do the same thing. And then similar to what Mr. Little asked, we would at that point say, hey, now that we're all here, now that we know who all are here on which side of this, is there any reason why anyone in this proceeding feel they may need to be excused? Typically, we try to work these things out on the back end before a meeting. So we would call, make sure, check it off, but we still have to ask that question in the hearing again to give, because it could be that once they got there, they could be like, oh, I know her or whatever. And they say, no, I don't want to participate. So we put that out there. Then what happens is the hearing officer, as I said, we provide a script, will kind of state these things. I'm going to read it to you. It's basically saying, as the presiding officer, the hearing officer will preside over the hearing, keep decorum, rule on all motions and objections. And it says it will proceed then the hearing officer, presiding officer, will kind of give the order of events. So you will start with opening statements by the complainant, and then the respondent will have an opportunity to provide an opening statement. Very similar, if you've ever served on jury duty, your plaintiff will provide an opening statement, and then so will the defense. And then there will be the presentation of the evidence and testimony from the complainant, and then the respondent will have an opportunity to go. Then the staff attorney, who will be me, or if the person's not represented, will have the ability to ask questions of each witness based on whatever testimony or whatever information they provided when it was their turn to give their side of the story or whatever events or information. At that point, if the hearing board members have questions, say if there's a point of clarification that they need, that you would need additional information about, or if you didn't get, if you weren't clear about the timeline or you wanted some other clarifying details, you would have the ability to ask those clarifying questions. And so at the conclusion, as I said, we would go, and then they would get to ask us questions, and then they would go, and then we would get to ask them and their witnesses questions. And then at the conclusion of that, then the complainant, which would be the city or complainant's attorney, if complainant has opted to be represented by another party, would make their closing statement if they so chose. And then same would go for the respondent. And then at that point, so at that point, everybody's presented all of the evidence, and you would then have the opportunity to, I'm gonna say, deliberate on the particular elements required for that alleged violation of the Fair Housing Act. And as I said, we have a checklist for you. Again, if you've served on the jury, very similar to like the jury instructions and then the verdict sheet. And then that portion, we would be done with the presentation of evidence. And after you do that, excuse me, I'm sorry. After you do that, you would make your, like I say, any other questions you have, then we would recess the hearing. The hearing board would then meet within 60 days after the hearing to make a determination about the facts of the case, or what you all believe, whether or not there was cause to believe that the Fair Housing Act had been violated, or if there was not cause. That would then need to have your findings of fact. We believe that, based on the presentation of evidence, that the respondent violated this section of the Fair Housing Act by doing these things. And, oh, I forgot, I did not mention this part. So as I said, there are 5 people who make up the hearing board, but you have to have a panel of at least 3, so that in the event that, as I said, there's a conflict or someone can or can't serve, you have your 3 people and then potentially 2 more alternates. So as I said, but you can have all 5 there if all 5 want to proceed, but you only need 3 in order to proceed. So as I said, once the hearing board makes their determination, you would let either Adolfo or Iris, most likely, and Dr. Christian know, and they would prepare the letter that goes out to the respondent and the complainant, letting them know, on this date, we held this hearing, these people were in attendance, and at the conclusion of the hearing board found that there is reasonable cause to believe that Section X of the Fair Housing Act has been violated, and therefore it's a cause determination. So once that happens, you then would, so let me back up. You all meet monthly, but depending on how a hearing would be scheduled and when that 60 days would be, you may need to have what we call like a special meeting, which is a meeting outside of a regularly scheduled meeting, to come up with your determination. But then you all, after you did that and notified staff, if you say, yes, we believe this, and based on this, our recommendation is that the city proceeds with the filing of a lawsuit. As I said, we have to get permission from city council to do that. So what we would need from you all is the document from the full commission, kind of again laying out the facts. We had a hearing on this date. Based on this evidence, we believe this occurred, and it is our recommendation that the city file a lawsuit. And so once that happens, you would do that at your regular meeting, or if we needed to have a special meeting. And then once you make that decision, it forwards it to us. We present it to city council in closed session, and then city council will say, yes, go file your lawsuit, or no, don't go file your lawsuit. And so once that happens, we would then notify all of the parties involved of what would happen next. So that's, as I said, that's kind of just a very quick overview. And there are actual outlines and documents that lay all of this out in greater detail that I will have Carlin send out to you to put in your binders. So if you didn't get it all written down tonight, no worries. You will have your very own copy to make notes and mark up as you see fit. So before I go any further, are there any questions? No? Am I explaining things that well? Okay, I'm gonna go with that. So as I said, I'm not gonna bore you with the very, very legal pieces, because as I said, those are the pieces that you would absolutely get in your hands before every hearing. But just to kind of give you an overview of like when I say the violation of the Fair Housing Act, I just want to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. And so, as I said, this is found in Section 38 of the City Code of Ordinances, starting with Section 38-105. And it basically says, it is unlawful to commit or attempt to commit directly or indirectly a discriminatory practice as defined in this article. And then Section 38-106 deals with discrimination in real estate transactions. And that can be refusing to engage in a real estate transaction with a person after the making of a bona fide offer. So like, let's say somebody, I think there was actually a case where this happened. Someone used a real estate agent, got a virtual tour, loved the place, not in Winston-Salem, this didn't happen in North Carolina, wanted to buy it, put in the offer, but then when the seller found out that it was a Black woman, she attempted to back out of the sale. She didn't want to sell her house to that particular buyer. That is prohibited under the Fair Housing Act. And so when it says to refuse to engage in a real estate transaction with a person after the making of a bona fide offer, because like I said, the lady loved the place. This was during COVID, so people weren't really meeting in person. And once, I don't know, I think the lady had to send in a picture of her driver's license. And when the seller, yes, she was at the beach. I believe maybe Virginia Beach, maybe, but yes. Yes, so you can't do that. It is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. The next one is to discriminate against a person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of a real estate transaction, or in the provision of services or facilities in connection therewith. So just to use my example from earlier, I mentioned a landlady decided they didn't want children, like let's say it's the HOA, and the HOA says, okay, well, we don't really like children. We have this very nice garden. We don't want them playing in it. So you can live here, but your children can't go over there to play. That's a very, very simplified example, but that is what we would say you're discriminating in the conditions or privileges of real estate transaction, or the provision of services or facilities in connection therewith. Because as a homeowner in this particular community, you pay your HOA dues, and ownership in this neighborhood allows you to partake in all of the amenities offered by the community. And so if the HOA board decided they didn't want kids playing in the garden, that would be an example of discriminating in terms and conditions. So the next one would be refuse to receive or fail to transmit a bona fide offer to engage in a real estate transaction. So kind of to expand on the example I gave the first time, like let's say the agent knew that the lady wouldn't want to sell her house to a person of color. And so the buyer's agent sent the offer, but the seller's agent was like, yeah, I'm not going to pass this along. I'm just going to tell her it fell through. The lady didn't want to buy it. That is what it means, because it was a bona fide offer. It was made to purchase. And for whatever reason, the real estate agent decided she wasn't going to make she wasn't going to make the seller aware of the buyer's offer. That is illegal, and that is covered, as I said, it would be Section 38106, subsection 3. The next one is refuse to negotiate for a real estate transaction with a person or otherwise make available. And I won't kind of go through all these. And then represent to a person that a property is not available for inspection, sale, rental, or lease, when in fact it is so, or fail to bring a property listing to a person's attention, or refuse to permit a person to inspect the real property. And I think this one is kind of the most common one you think of, because there have been documentaries where they will send in what they're called testers, where they may have Jane Doe with a very Midwestern accent call and say, hey, I'm moving to the area, I'm looking for an apartment, and I'm interested in renting a property. Do you have anything available? And the agent says, oh, yes, we have 5 units available. When can you come down and see them? And then let's say another person named Takesha, who sounds like she's from Winston-Salem, calls and says, hey, I'm new to the area. I would love to live in this community. Do you have anything available? And the lady says, Takesha, no, we are all full, and we have a wait list that is like 1,000 people long. So that would be an example of, engaging with one and not engaging with the other person. And that is absolutely prohibited. It also can happen in the sense of any of the protected classes. So if it's a person with disabilities, if it's a person with children, if it's on the basis of sex, religion, any of those protected classes, if the property owner failed to make available when it was otherwise available and misrepresented the status of that unit, that is a violation of the Fair Housing Act, or to permit to inspect it. So if it's a big sign outside that says now leasing, and I say, oh, can I come in and tour the model unit? And they say, no, you can't come in, you can't tour it. No, you can't. But then another lady comes in right after me. It's like, oh yes, please come in and you can tour this one and you can tour this one and you can tour this one because this one is available for rent tomorrow. If they treated us differently, and then that would be a violation. I see a question. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us just what exactly are the protected classes for these laws in North Carolina or in Winston-Salem?
Okay. Yes. So, and actually not just Winston-Salem, because our excuse me, our fair housing ordinance models the ordinance, the Fair Housing Act. So it would be, and I'm going to try to do these from memory. So help me out if I get them wrong, because now I'm on the spot. But so it's race, sex, gender, religion, color, creed, familial status, disability, and I'm forgetting one, Adolfo. What is it?
I'm sorry. It's race, color, sex, national origin, familial
National origin.
status, disability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
National origin. That was the one. So yes, those are the protected classes.
So sexual orientation is not a protected class in this act.
It isn't, but it is. Because you can't. Well, so when we get to our non-discrimination ordinances, those categories are a bit more broad. But yes,
Takesha, I'm sorry to interrupt. Takesha, in 2021, the HUD issued a memorandum that said that gender identity and sexual orientation are to be covered under sex.
Under sex.
Yeah.
So yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So yes, so as I said, it doesn't appear in the list of definitions, but there is an expanded definition of sex that includes that. Thank you, Adolfo. So let me see. So I think we're in section 1. So we're doing real estate. I got off of my. Here we go. Yes. So let me get back to my page. Here we go. Yes. So then we have, I would just like the representing that a property is not available when it is, to print, circulate, post, or mail, or cause to be published, a statement, advertisement, or sign, or use a form of application in a real estate transaction, or make any record or inquiry in connection with a prospective real estate transaction, which indicates directly or indirectly an intent to make a limitation, specification, or difference with respect to race, color, religion, national origin, sex, disability, or familial status. And so what that generally covers is if it says single women, we just want single women. We don't want to rent to married women. We don't want to rent to married men. We just want single women to live here. Nobody else apply. You can't do that. You can't do that. And then the next category would be to, for profit, induce or attempt to induce any person to sell or rent a dwelling by representations regarding entry or prospective entry into the neighborhood of a person of a particular race, color, sexual handicap, et cetera, et cetera. So if you say, you know what, Takesha, you would be, I know the perfect neighborhood for you. I'm going to, you should live over here in this section of town because there are a lot of people named Takesha over there on that side of town. That kind of stuff is prohibited. You cannot do that. You can't steer people to particular areas where based on the perception of how that person looks or religion or familial status, where you think they would want to live. You have to say, these are all of the things that I have available, and you pick which one that you would like. You can't steer them to a particular area or particular housing unit, or in the case of a rental property, in a particular part of the complex. So if you say, okay, everybody with kids, you go live in that building way, way down there, very far, far away. And all the older people who don't have kids, you move up here to the front so it can be nice and quiet. You can't do that. You can't do that. That is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. So the next one would be coerce, intimidate, threaten, or interfere with any person in the exercise or enjoyment or on account of that person having exercised or enjoyed or having aided or encouraged another person in the enjoyment or exercise of any right protected by this article. So let's say you have a neighbor who needs a reasonable accommodation, and you say, hey, you know what, if you ask the landlord to allow you to drop your rent payment off at the mailbox instead of bringing it into the office because you can't go upstairs, that's a reasonable accommodation. They should allow you to do that. And they say, you know what, Takesha, you are such a busybody. We don't need you telling tenants in this apartment complex about their rights. So we're going to terminate your lease and we're going to evict you. Can't do that. You can't take any action or threaten or coerce or intimidate. You say, you know what, Keisha, you're on thin ice. If you do that one more time, we're not going to renew your lease. We're going to terminate your lease. We're going to evict you. We're going to take some sort of adverse action. Then that would be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. You can't do that. Please don't do that. To the next one, section 9 would be to offer, solicit, accept, or use or retain a listing of property with the understanding that a person may be discriminated against in a real estate transaction or in the provision of facilities or services in connection therewith. So if this is, again, like if you're trying to put someone in, let's say you're trying to put someone in a neighborhood where you know that they're going to be harassed, intimidated, picked on, discriminated against, and you say, you know, you should move over here on this side of the apartment complex. You'll be very happy over there. But for whatever reason, they know that the people on that side of the apartment complex will not be happy with you. They can't do that. They can't do that. You can't discriminate in the sale or rental or otherwise make available to a buyer or renter because of a handicap that a buyer or renter or a person residing in or intending to reside in the dwelling after it is sold, rented, or made available, or any person associated with that buyer or renter. And so this one is a bit more broad because it affects not just the person who would be buying or renting the apartment, or the home, but it would be also people who would live in the dwelling with that person or associated with. So let's say it's not me. Let's say, and this is a real example. My father has Parkinson's disease, and he needs a handicapped parking spot, and I live furthest away from the handicapped parking spot, and I say, hey, you know what? Is it possible that I could have my dad park here because the visitor's lot is all the way down there and he can't walk that far? Can I have an accommodation so that my dad can park here close to my apartment when he comes to visit me? And they say, no, you can't have that. So that's a problem because it's not me per se that they're discriminating against, but it is a person associated with me. So because of their refusal to accommodate me, my father could not come to visit me at my apartment or my home, and that would make me very sad, and it would be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. So that category, like I said, it's not just the person who is buying or renting, but it is someone who may live there or someone who is associated with that person. Did I see a hand? No? Okay. And so I got that one part. So that's section 11, and then there's a section B that it goes into greater detail on what that means. I gave you a very simplified example, but it says a refusal to make accommodations in the rules, policies, practices, or services when such accommodation may be necessary to afford such person equal opportunity to use and enjoy a dwelling, or to refuse to permit at the expense of the handicapped person. This one isn't related to my father's example. To make reasonable modifications of existing premises occupied or to be occupied by such person if such modifications may be necessary to afford that person the full use and enjoyment of the premises. And so this one would be like, let's say, the most common example that I can think of right off the top of my head is a handicap ramp. So let's say I need a ramp built because my dad's coming to live with me, and I, at my own expense, want to have this ramp built so that my dad can wheel himself into my front door. And I say, hey, I'm willing to pay for this. I just need you to agree that I can modify my unit in this way. And they say, no, can't do it. That's a violation of the Fair Housing Act. And then this one, it's a bit technical and we don't see it a lot, but it's what's called design and construction, and it affects buildings that are available for occupancy after March the 13th of 1991, because there were changes in the design and construction in the design and construction of buildings so that they were made to be ADA compliant. They had to have certain things built in. And those, so if it's pre-1991, this doesn't cover it, but they still have to make an effort to accommodate a person who may otherwise need an accommodation to be able to have the full use and enjoyment of the, and when I say dwelling, it also covers facilities. So let's say it's the pool or the clubhouse or the beautiful garden where they don't want children to play. They have the accommodation. It covers not only the dwelling, but the facilities as well. So as I said, if it's a situation where there's a rent drop box, but it's at the top of the stairs and I can't climb stairs, but there's a box at the bottom of the stairs, so I say, hey, I'll drive there and I'll call you when I get to the stairs. You just come down and get my rent check. Even though I can get in and out of my apartment fine, if the leasing office is inaccessible and I am asking for an accommodation so that I can be allowed to pay my rent like everyone else, that's an accommodation that they would have to consider, and they really should make, because that's a very reasonable accommodation. So as I said, so the design and construction standards from 1991, they deal with things like the width of the door, such that a wheelchair could pass through, that there's an accessible route into the dwelling, that the light switches, outlets, doorknobs, all of those things are at a height that someone who may use a wheelchair or an assistive aid can have access to them. The bathroom would have to be wide enough that, say, if you were in a wheelchair, you could maneuver it within the space. Grab bars, shower rails, those sorts of things. And the kitchen, another common requirement is that the kitchen counter height is low enough that if a person in a wheelchair needed to access the sink, they wouldn't have to do like that. They could just go straight to it and be able to access it. So those are just kind of some of the standards that were adopted that saying, you know, if this place was built after this date, this has to be incorporated into the design and construction of the building. So as I said, before I move on, are there any other questions? No? Okay, so the next batch, they're a little less common. Doesn't mean that they don't happen, but these deal with financial transactions. So maybe like loans or applying for credit to rehab. I think there were some cases about this shortly after the credit crisis, maybe in 2008, where they were finding that African-American borrowers with credit scores that were higher than an income higher than white borrowers were getting interest rates and terms on their loans that they should not have, because their credit scores and income entitled them to qualify for a much lower interest rate and more favorable loan terms. And so for whatever reason, I think they tried to blame it on the computer software. But yeah, so if there's a different treatment in the extending of credit, the making of loans, or other financial products, that sort of activity is prohibited by the Fair Housing Act. Like I said, it's technical because it typically involves analyzing data, using testers. I've not seen, and just as good as I said that was probably going to happen, I've not seen the city handle a case like this. And these are the types of cases, they tend to be systemic. So it's not just a one-off, because if you think about all of the people who may apply to a bank for a loan within a particular time period, it's very likely that it's just one person. So they would then go back to look at all of the borrowers during this particular time period that may have applied for a loan and otherwise have been treated differently. And so for those kinds of cases, if there were some allegations like that going on, we would typically engage, well, not typically, we would engage the services of an expert, because as I said, these are technical, dense portions of the Fair Housing Act, and they tend to affect multiple people and not just one borrower or one renter. So we don't see them a lot, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. This one, so it's discrimination in provision of brokerage services, and it's discriminatory to deny any person access to membership or participation in a real estate brokers organization, multiple listing service, or organization or facility relating to the business of engaging in real estate. So like, let's just say it is the Winston-Salem Realtors Club and the Realtors Association. I don't think that's a real entity. I hope it's not, because I just made it up for the purpose of this example. But let's say they say, well, okay, it is, but even though it says the Winston-Salem Realtors Association, it's really only for realtors who sell property in this zip code, and or realtors who grew up in this zip code, or realtors who look like this. And for whatever reason, you don't make the cut, Keisha, you can't be in the Winston-Salem Realtors Association because of discriminatory reasons. Or we say, we'll say we're open to everyone, but we don't extend membership to everyone who applies. And it just so happens that everyone who was denied the opportunity to become a member looked a certain way or shared a particular characteristic that was protected by the Fair Housing Act. Again, that's one that we don't see a lot, but it is, the Fair Housing Act covers not just housing, but things that are associated or ancillary areas that are associated with the transaction of housing. So, and it could be, and as I said, I use myself as an example, but it might say, you know what, this is the Winston-Salem Realtors Club, but if you're a single woman or if you're a married woman, but you don't have kids, you can't be in our club, like that kind of thing, because again, you're denying services or denying membership or entry into an organization based on some protected class, and that's prohibited by the Fair Housing Act. So those are the excuse me, those are the categories that kind of broadly I went over them and as I said, I'm going to send you out a copy so you can read these in greater detail. The next one is acting for another person is not a defense. So let's say in the transaction where the lady wanted to buy the condo, and when the buyer found out that she was Black, she didn't want to sell it, the realtor was like, okay, well then I'm just going to tell her you're not interested. And the realtor goes and says that. And then she's like, well, it wasn't me. I was acting on behalf of this lady because she didn't want to sell her house. I really didn't have anything to do with it. No, because it's not a defense. If you say, well, it's not me. I don't believe in anything discriminatory. I was just saying no because she said to tell her no. That's not a defense. You can't do that. So if you're otherwise involved in the transaction, you need to, as the realtor in that transaction, I would say, hey, Jane Doe, yeah, I understand this, but you can't do this. You can't not sell to this lady based on this reason. You might want to reconsider that because what you're asking me to do is against the law. You can't do that because you want to make it clear. I recognize that what this person is doing, what this person is doing is illegal. I am separating myself from it. I am not participating in it. I am not facilitating it. I'm stepping out. I'm saying, no, you can't do this. This is a violation of the law. I will not take part in this. But if you do go along with it, just know you can't use the defense and say, well, I only did it because she told me to. But you can't do that. And so there are, and I see I'm kind of coming up on my hour. So I'll just kind of go over. There are some defenses, some things that the Fair Housing Act will provide an exemption for. And a lot of these deal with, like, let's say one of the most common ones is like if I'm renting a room in my house, like it's not a multifamily complex. Let's say I have this 5-bedroom house and I live in it all by myself and I want to rent out the other rooms. But I'm like, oh yeah, no, that one is, it allows for the person to provide that because they are sharing the space with the people who they are living with. So that's what we commonly refer to as like the Miss Murphy exemption. I don't know if Miss Murphy was a real person, but they give the example of Miss Murphy has this house and she wants to rent out these rooms. You can be a bit more selective in who you bring on as a tenant because, as I said, this is not a completely multifamily space. This is a home and the person is occupying a part of it, and then the other rooms or other units would be occupied by tenants. So that is that exemption. Like if it's a all girls dorm, that's obviously not a violation of the Fair Housing Act. If there is, like, let's see, if there is like a religious organization, so if it's like the religious organization is providing the housing, and it says, okay, this is the, I don't know, the Buddhist retirement community. That sort of thing wouldn't be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. If it's a situation where the property isn't going to be used for residential use, that wouldn't be, because it's a commercial use. It's not, so the Fair Housing Act wouldn't cover a commercial property that's not intended to be used for residential use. A private club, there are private club exemptions. So those sorts of things would not be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Age, so if there's a senior housing community where you have to be 60 to live there, that sort of thing is not a violation of the Fair Housing Act. So there's an exemption that provides for that. And actually, I said 60, it's 62. And then, but like, let's say there's a situation where I might be 62, but my spouse isn't. Doesn't matter. As long as I meet the threshold, I can stay there. We can live there, saying it that way. Let's see. I'm trying to kind of speed through this. So yeah, so those are kind of just a broad overview of the exceptions. As I said, this you don't have to be experts in this. That's what we do. So you just listen to the facts. As the hearing board officers, you would listen to the facts and apply them to any elements that we give you. If we say we believe this is a terms and conditions case, or we believe this is a failure to rent or otherwise make available case, and in order to meet the burden of proof for this case, you have to show this, 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 and this. You would have that in front of you so that in listening to the facts, you would know exactly what it was that you were expected, that you needed to check off on in order to say, yes, cause exists, or no, cause does not exist. So as I said, I'm right at my hour, so I'll stop here and take questions if there are any. No? Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miss Attorney Keisha Red. We appreciate that. And we appreciate your time this evening. And again, thank you for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to get these to Carlin. She'll get them out for you all to review. And if there's any point in time where you all want me to come back and say, you know, you went over these kind of fast, and now that I've had an opportunity to kind of read through this, I really want more information about X, or I want additional training on Y. I am happy to do that. You just let them know, and then they can put me back on your agenda anytime that you all may have questions, or if I feel like there's been some meaningful change that I would need to kind of, that it would be good for the group as a whole to hear or get more information on. I'm happy to do that. You just let Carlin or Dr. Christian know, and they'll put me back on your agenda, and I'll be back to give you updates on any other topics you may be interested in.
Well, thank you for that. And with that in mind, we do want you back on the agenda so that we can make sure that we go over those bylaws.
Yes.
So not to put you on the spot tonight, but just put that on your radar.
Oh, okay.
So we
I'll look at my calendar, but it ends in September. So, but yeah.
Okay.
So you all, it's the 4th
Thursday of each month.
Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty sure my 4th Thursday in October is available. If you, we can obviously kind of coordinate that, but if you want me to be at the October meeting or any other meeting, yeah, you just let me know, and I'll, since these occur in the evening, I'll shift things around to make myself available.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you so much for doing the training for our commissioners and our staff.
Yes.
At this, you're welcome. Okay, thank you. At this juncture, we want to go ahead and move to the voting nomination for the executive board position. As you all are aware, we do have the position of chair available. So to give you the job duties for the chair, it consists of facilitating the monthly meetings, speaking at community events, and also serving as the liaison between the Human Relations DEI department staff and the Human Relations Commissioners Committee. With that in mind, you all should also have that in front of you. Do we have any? We want to open the floor for any nominations for the chair.
Dr. Christian, do members of the commission have to be present to be nominated?
Well, ideally, that would be preferable.
That would be preferable.
Right. Unless they called in and given a notice to say they are interested in serving as chair. And then we could, of course, proceed that way.
Do we know if anybody has volunteered to be nominated?
I have no calls on that. Ms. Duncan, have you received anything for nominations for chair?
No, I have not.
Okay, so we have no one who has shown an interest in serving as the chair, which is why we're here this evening. Do we have anyone who is interested in serving as chair?
Do we know who is the most senior member of the commission?
Yes, we do. That would be Commissioner Wiggins by date and also Commissioner Usher by date. However, they are slated to roll off in December of this year.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So again, do we have anyone who is interested in serving as the chair?
Would anybody be interested in serving as an interim chair until our senior members roll off? Would any of our senior members be interested in serving as interim chair until they roll off in December?
Christian, Dr. Christian.
Yes,
Could you go over the responsibilities again, please?
absolutely. The chair would facilitate the monthly meetings. When we have our human relation events and or additional community events, the chair would be asked to speak on behalf of the commission. And then also the chair would serve as the liaison between our human relations DEI staff and the commissioners.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Actually,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm Dr. Christian.
Dr. Christian?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I referred you as Mr. Chair. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, no, I am not the chair.
I recommend Mr. Jason McKinley would accept the nomination for it. The appointee
Is there a
for
second?
chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Dwayne Little, I'll second it.
Okay.
But before we call for a vote on that, somebody did post in the chat that they would be willing to serve as interim if needed. Can we confirm who on the iPhone sent that in the chat?
That's Commissioner Wiggins.
Oh, Commissioner Wiggins. I'm very glad you're still on. I was going to nominate you as the chair. Is there a second?
And again, and I to work with anybody who's interested. I'll do whatever to be able to support someone to be successful in this role going forward. So if there's anything that I can do to empower anybody along, whatever time I have, I commit myself to doing that for the betterment of the commissioners and the commission and those that we represent in our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Wiggins. I would be willing to accept the position as chair or co-chair. I know we already have a co-chair, but until December, if that, I'm willing to serve if we would prefer to have a chair that would be serving longer than December.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Jason, are you willing to serve in that capacity so we could just make it official and it would just carry over so we don't have to do this again in December?
Well, I do like bureaucratic processes, I do have to admit. Yes, I'm willing to serve.
Well, Awesome. So we have to make a motion. There are two motions, basically two motions on the floor. There is a motion that Commissioner Wiggins serves as the interim chair until her term has expired, and post that, Commissioner McKinney will take over as the chair. So we have to, of course, one has to make a motion and it has to be second and then voted upon by all commissioners.
I move.
Okay, so someone has to make the motion that, well, I just said, someone has to say that other than me.
I make a motion that Commissioner Wiggins serves as the interim chair, and that Commissioner McKinney takes over as the chair after her exit.
Okay, so the motion has been made. Now it needs to be properly second. Properly second.
I second that. I second that Commissioner Wiggins be voted as chair until she expires in her term expires in December, and then I'll take over.
Okay. So with that, we need to ensure that a vote is carried by each committee member, approve or not approve, or by signifying aye. So Ms. Duncan, would you do the honors?
Your mic is muted, Ms. Duncan.
Ms. Duncan?
Okay, sorry. Commissioner Amara,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Kerma,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Parks,
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhardt, see her. Commissioner Usher
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
Awesome. So the ayes have it. So it is. Moving right along, we need to discuss nominations for the Human Relations Commission subcommittees. First up, as we just had the training from our assistant attorney, Keisha Red, we need to have individuals to serve on the hearing board. Currently, we do not have a chair for that committee. However, Commissioner Preble is one of the sitting members to be a part of that. So for the hearing board, of course, we need to have a chair and then 4 additional commissioners to serve on that.
Can you tell us, like, when do the hearings take place? Like, are they during the business hours or evenings or what?
So that is something that would be worked out with the commissioners and Keisha, Ms. Red. And again, the purpose of the hearing board is to review the non-discrimination ordinance and fair housing appeal in cases that have determined to have no cause by the Human Relations DEI staff.
I will say in the one, we've had one. I mean, we have one pending right now, but before that, we had one in the 2.5 years that I've been here. It took about half an hour. So this is not a huge topic. And
awesome, thank you.
And it was in the evening.
Thank you, Eleanor.
I have a question. So if you're on that subcommittee, are you able to work on another committee as well, or you have to solely just do that one? Like if you're like a, you know what I'm saying?
I do. I know
Like,
exactly
since
what you're
we're all
saying.
kind of being cross-trained tonight for it, is that okay to do?
Yes, it is, Commissioner Parks. You can also serve on on an additional committee.
Okay, well, I help with that.
Okay.
I'll be
So
willing
are
to
you
serve as well.
okay? So we have Commissioners Parks and Commissioner Usher to serve
I'm willing
on
to
the
serve as well.
and Commissioner Rayner. So that's 3 additional with Commissioner Preble. So that puts us up to 4. And we need 1 person to serve as the chair of the hearing board.
Would Commissioner Preble be available to do that since he operates in that capacity? Okay, thank you, Ms. Duncan.
Is Commissioner Preble with us this evening? No?
No, she's not, and have not been with us for a while now, so.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's go. We need to, again, anyone interested in serving as the chair of the hearing board?
And what is the responsibility for the chair of the hearing board?
And again, so just pretty much the coordination of making sure that everyone is there to sit in on the hearing. So just some coordination there between, of course, our department, our HR, DEI staff, and also our assistant city attorney. And of course, as Assistant City Attorney Red mentioned, they will provide you all with scripts. So whatever your role would be as to read certain portions of that script during the actual hearing.
Well, I will serve as chair if no one else wants it.
Awesome.
Or desire.
Awesome. Okay, so we have Commissioner Usher, who has volunteered to serve as the chair for the hearing board. So we need to make a motion that said names be accepted as chair, Commissioner Usher, chair, and Commissioners Parks, Rayner, and who's the other? Preble.
Yes.
To continue and to serve as members of the hearing board. So someone needs to make a motion.
I make a motion that said names be added to the Housing Advisory Board with Commissioner Usher as chair.
Awesome. And the motion has to be properly seconded.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made. Awesome. And it has been seconded by Vice Chair Evans. Vice Chair Evans. Vice Chair Evans has properly seconded the motion, and there has to be, of course, carried by the commissioners. I'm sorry?
Go ahead and do the roll call. Commissioner Amaro?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Carmar? Commissioner Little?
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Commissioner Parks?
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor?
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhardt? Commissioner Usher?
Aye.
And Commissioner Wiggins?
Excuse me, I just need for clarity, so I have a question. So we are voting on Commissioner Usher serving as the chair for this committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that
As
is
the chair
through
as the
his
chair
term through December?
That is correct. Okay. So the next subcommittee is the New Horizon Fair Housing Committee. The New Horizon Fair Housing Committee is the only committee mandated by the charter of the Winston-Salem Human Relations Commission. The committee's chief mission is to educate the community on the importance of fair housing. So with that said, we need to open the floor for a chair and at least 2 members to serve on the New Horizon Fair Housing Committee.
I'll serve on the committee.
Okay.
I will
Deputy-
serve on the committee.
All right. Thank you. And we need 1 person to serve as the chair of the New Horizon Fair Housing Committee.
I'll serve.
Awesome.
I make a motion that we have a vote on members to the New Horizon Housing Committee. That's Commissioner Little, Commissioner Mamaro, and myself, Commissioner McKinney, as chair. Is there a second?
Travis Stephens seconded.
With the motion properly being seconded, we call for a vote.
Unmute your mic, Ms. Duncan.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Amaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Karma.
Ms. Duncan, can you try to spell my name one more time? Is it written?
K-U-M-A-R. Is it Karma?
How it can be karma? How it is? R is not in the middle. How it will be karma?
Thank you, Commissioner. I believe it is pronounced Kumar.
Kumar.
Yes. It's a simple. If R is at the end, it has
Is
to
that correct,
say.
Commissioner? Is it pronounced Kumar?
Yes.
All right, I think we have that correct now.
Okay, sorry. Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Parks,
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhardt, Commissioner Usher,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
Unanimously, the motion passes.
Awesome. So the next committee is the Fair Housing and Landlord Tenant Committee. Again, there will be a position of chair that needs to be filled, as well as two additional positions for members to serve on the committee. And the areas of outreach for the Fair Housing and Landlord Tenant Committee is the Alternative Residential Mediation Program, which we call ARM. Also, the Eviction Diversion Right to Counsel Program, and of course, our Fair Housing Summit that we have each year in April. So again, the floor is open for a chair and 2 additional members to serve as members of the Fair Housing and Landlord Tenant Committee.
I would be willing to serve on the Fair House and Landlord Tenant Committee as well.
I would be willing to serve.
Okay.
And now to the chair.
Okay.
I make a motion that to this committee, we add myself, Commissioner McKinney, Commissioner Usher, and Commissioner Evans as chair to this committee. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Motion properly being seconded. We ask Ms. Duncan for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Amaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuma,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhardt, Commissioner Usher,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, the next committee is the Non-Discrimination Ordinance Committee. Currently, there is a chair. Commissioner Wiggins serves as the chair. We need 2 commissioners to serve on this committee. Outreach areas, the ad hoc study subcommittees, as well as the Pride Festival sponsorship. Again, looking for 2 commissioners to serve on the Non-Discrimination Ordinance Committee, along with the chair, Commissioner Wiggins.
I'm willing to serve.
I have a question.
Okay.
Before we proceed any further, Vice Chair Evans, my question is the same as with serving as the interim. I will support anyone who would like to serve as the chair of the NDO. I don't have a problem helping someone acclimate, given the limited time that I have remaining. Is there, if there is anyone who would like to serve as chair of this committee and of the student relations committee, I'm happy to step aside and be of support, given it's only just really like 2 months, because we don't meet in December, where I can provide support to someone as they transition into the role.
I would serve as chair of the Non-Discrimination Committee of the Commission. And I would appreciate your help in acclimating.
You got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wiggins. We still need 1 more commissioner to serve on this panel.
I don't know if we're comfortable waiting, but we might consider asking Commissioner Moran, since this involves our Pride sponsorship. It would be a natural fit.
Perhaps we can make the motion on this committee at the next meeting.
I second that motion.
Table.
Table.
Ms. Duncan, are you going to
Yes.
get the ayes to approve that, please?
Commissioner Amaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuma,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Parks, Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhardt, Commissioner Usher,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Question, could you repeat what we're voting on? My apologies again, I am traveling. for work. So could you repeat that again for me, please?
So there is a vote on the table to table to table the non-discrimination ordinance committee membership at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Christian. I do have an interjection. So it's I'm understanding that we want to table this because somebody's not here. Then we're in the process of voting, so we want to table it to that person is here to see if that person would like to chair the committee. Is that what I'm hearing?
Or to serve on the committee, but yes, that is what you're hearing, Commissioner.
So do you know if that's what this person want to do, or are we holding up the vote because we're not sure if this person want to do it and we're going to ask that individual?
It sounds as though you.
What were you saying, Dr. Christian?
Okay, if that's what you guys want to do, okay. So I abstain from voting.
I would recommend that. I would recommend that you move forward with carrying through with your vote. And of course, if the commissioner is interested in being a part of the non-discrimination ordinance committee, once Commissioner Wiggins has transitioned off, then he can transition on.
I agree with that.
Is there a motion?
So just as a point of order, the previous motion appears to have passed.
That's what it sounds like.
I
It
don't
did.
think that we can make it.
You only had one that was nay, so you had the majority rules.
Yeah.
So it's tabled.
It's tabled already, according to Robert Rules of Order.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, the Language Access Committee. Currently, there is a chair, Ms. Zuaga. The Language Access Committee outreach areas include the Building Integrated Communities. It also encompasses the Immigration Resources Fair and also the International Village Food and Music Festival. Again, we are opening the floor for 2 members to be a part of the Language Access Committee.
I'd love to be part of that committee. This is Commissioner Kumar.
And this is Milagros Amaro. I would like to be a member of this committee.
Awesome. All right.
I make a motion that we add Commissioner Kumar and Commissioner Mamaro to the list to serve on this committee. Is there a second?
Second that.
Properly being seconded, we ask Ms. Duncan for a vote.
Commissioner Amaro?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Kuma?
Aye.
Commissioner Little?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Commissioner Parks?
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor?
Aye.
Commissioner Usher?
Aye.
And Commissioner Wiggins?
Aye.
Motion is passed.
Okay, the next committee is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Currently, we have 2 members, Commissioner McKinney and Commissioner Evans. We are seeking a chair for the DEI committee. The outreach areas include the City Equity Plan, DEI trainings, departmental equity plans, Diversity Awareness Month, and also the Equity Core Team. Again, we are opening the floor for nomination for chair for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Again, any?
I will serve on the committee.
I'll serve as chair.
Okay. So I need to make a motion.
I make a motion that we add Commissioner Little to the committee and elevate myself as chair to this committee. Is there a second?
I second.
The motion properly being seconded, we ask Ms. Duncan for a vote.
Commissioner Mero,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuma,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Park.
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor says she'll be right back.
I'm here. I say aye.
Commissioner Usher
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
Awesome. And the last committee is our Departmental Outreach Committee. Currently, we have a vacancy for the chair and 2 slots for members of the committee of the commission to serve on the Departmental Outreach Committee. Outreach areas include the Black History Month Showcase of Songs, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers Award, High School Race Relation Forum, the Human Relations DEI Open House, the Human Relations Student Awards Banquet, and Juneteenth Festival sponsorship, along with Trust Talks and the Twin City Trailblazers. Again, the floor is open for a chair and 2 members to serve on the Departmental Outreach Committee.
I have a question, Dr. Christian.
Yes.
As far as I guess I've been to almost all of these things, and it's a lot of planning that goes into them. We work in conjunction with the city department, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll volunteer to be chair of this.
Okay.
He took my spot, but I'll let you have it.
Okay.
It's my area too.
And I'll serve too. And add my name to it too.
Okay. Parks and Evans. Okay. Awesome.
That too.
All right. So there has to be a motion.
I make a motion that Parks, that Commissioner Parks, that Commissioner Little, Mr. Evans be I make a motion. I can make a motion. I make a motion. I make a motion that Commissioner be the chair, and Parks and Evans, be a part of the Departmental Outreach Committee.
Okay.
I second it.
I second it.
What do you do about that?
Commissioner Mero,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
What was the plan?
Commissioner Kuma,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Parks,
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Usher,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you all again for your participation for the nominations as for the executive board chair, as well as the chair and member positions for our subcommittees. Next on our agenda, of course, we will have our update My updates, I have two updates I want to ensure and share with you all tonight. First and foremost, want to go over the attendance policy, section 7, chapter 2. Administration is hereby amended to create a new section entitled 2-67, attendance policy for city boards, committees, and commissioners. In order for a board, committee, or commissioner to be effective and efficient and to accomplish its purpose, its membership must be actively involved and attendant to the business of the body. Therefore, all city-appointed members are required to attend at least 65% of the regular and special meetings of the body held in any one calendar year. Excused absences shall not count toward the 65% attendance requirement. Members shall be permitted up to 3 excused absences per calendar year in the following circumstances: illness or medical related absences, funerals and or bereavement, the birth or adoption of the board member's child for 90 days after the birth or adoption, or military service. Excuse absence requests should be formally made in writing via email to the mayor's office, city clerk, and the board's staff advisor within 1 week of the date of the missed meeting. Any absence that does not meet the above criteria shall be considered unexcused. So again, this is the new attendance policy that has been approved and passed by our city council. You should also have this in your information that was sent out by Ms. Duncan. Are there any questions regarding the attendance policy?
I have a question, Dr. Christian.
Yes.
I noted in your reciting of what was considered an excused absence. What if you work? I didn't hear work, or did I not wasn't paying attention? What if there's a work-related event that you have to attend that impacts your ability to be able to be present at a scheduled meeting? Is that would the commissioner then have to take it unexcused absence?
Yeah, I would have to say yes, in accordance to this policy, the way it is written.
Thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Any other questions relative to the attendance policy? If not, then my only other update is I want to ensure that everyone, each member understands their term. You should also have this information. As I mentioned before, we do have 2 of our commissioners who are scheduled to transition off at the end of this calendar year. That would be Commissioner Usher, December of 2024, and Commissioner Wiggins, December 2024. Commissioner Amaro expires in December 2026. Commissioner Evans, also December 2026. Is it Kumar? Also expires December 2026. Deputy Little, Commissioner Little, expires December of 2025. Commissioner McKinney expires December of 2026. Commissioner Moran expires December 2026. Commissioner Parks, also December 2026. Commissioner Preble December 2025. Commissioner Rayner, December 2025. Commissioner Reinhardt, December 2026. And Commissioner Zugaga, or December 2026. So again, those are the expiration dates of your terms. Updates for housing and landlord tenant.
Dr. Christian, yes, Dr. Christian, very briefly, I will say that the number of you have this report in your packet. This fiscal year has started normally for us. We have so far 51 total calls that we have received in the year. In the month of August, we opened 10 landlord tenant cases. That's a fairly interesting number, a little bit high for this time of year. And a total of 18 landlord tenant cases have been opened. We received 2 inquiries regarding housing discrimination cases. 2 complaints were filed in August regarding housing discrimination cases, and we have 2 ongoing cases when it comes to fair housing discrimination cases. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Brasino? Ms. Puckett, diversity, equity, and inclusion updates.
Good evening. Again, briefly, I did want to take a moment to introduce, we do have a new DEI team member, Colbert Osei Owusu, who is now our equity coordinator. He will be working with me as we continue our critical conversations and cultural competency sessions that we do each and every month. We are working with, as always, 5 departments on their equity planning. As those departments finish out, we do bring new departments on. Currently, we are working with the police department, the finance department, engineering, human resources, and the Department of Transportation is almost at completion of their equity plan. As I said, we will work with them, and as they come off, we bring new departments on, and we do have 5 that we will be looking at to bring on as they finalize their plans. We will also be preparing our event. Our most upcoming event right now will be Veterans Day. It is on November 11th. We will be providing coffee and donuts for the veterans in our city organization on the 8th of November.
Awesome, thank you, Ms. Puckett. Are there any questions for Ms. Puckett relative to her updates? Non-discrimination ordinance.
Hello, we at the end of August, we hosted a successful non-discrimination ordinance roundtable with the city of Charlotte with about 30 participants. We will be holding more roundtables with them in the future in 2025. We are also continuing to pursue partnership with the EEOC. We are looking at doing some YouTube ads to spread further awareness, and we do not have any active cases at this time.
Awesome. Any updates for or questions regarding non-discrimination ordinance? And language access updates.
Yesterday, we held a bit pipeline session. We had 55 in attendance, which is a good number for us. And we're able to provide interpretation into Spanish. We took surveys as to usefulness as well as understanding, and got very good positive comments back as to usefulness of the program. So we're thankful for that. International Village is coming up October the 26th, 1 month away. And we're making the final preparations. We're thankful that this year we have easily tripled the amount of sponsorship monies that are coming in. And that is encouraging. And we are also seeing a strong interest in participation with our artists as well as with our vendors, and we're thankful for that as well. So we're seeing good things happen. Javier?
Yes, hi. For the language access Hispanic side, as a Hispanic area, starting tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be on call due to the weather to provide translation interpretation to any kind of emergency that happened around the city until this hurricane or bad weather leave our area. And also, we have been doing a lot of translations, interpretations. We send the data to Dr. Christian. In total, in the last year and a half, has been around 300. That's a huge volume of translation, interpretation. But we are here. We are making it. Any other question? Please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for the update. Any questions for language access? Community outreach updates. Ms. Simon.
Good evening, all. Thank you. First of all, thank you to those that are going to be serving on those committees. You'll be hearing from me soon. As Bob said, we are in the final stages of International Village. So we will be calling on some of you soon to come work at our table for that day. For those of you who signed up for the outreach committee, I will be starting meeting with you very soon about the Student Human Relations Banquet. That is that's going to be February 27th. Yes, February 27th. And so it's time to start working on that as well in the midst of everything else we have going on. We're kind of pretty much done with outreach season as far as it relates to going to certain outreach events. We will be at the fair at the Winston-Salem, City of Winston-Salem's booth during the Carolina Classic Fair. So that will pretty much end our outreach season as such. Then December, we will have open house. You will get more information about that as well. Because we're going to move right into January, which is MLK Day of Service. Excuse me, MLK Day of Service and MLK Young Dreamers, which you guys will be voting on as well. And you'll be participating in that process. So just know that you'll be hearing from me very soon about some of these events coming up.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Any questions for Ms. Simon? Okay. New business. On the new business, we do need to talk and bring to the table in-person meetings. So at this juncture, we want to discuss, take a vote, the pleasure of the committee members, whether you want to meet in October in person or virtually. Floor is open.
Do we need to make a motion?
For me, it'll be great virtually, but I can also make arrangements. So,
the date of the October meeting?
October the 24th.
Yeah, virtually.
Yeah. It will work better for me virtually.
Well, it seems to me that we're going to have a better quorum or better chances of maintaining a quorum if we do it virtually. How many members do we need for the quorum, numbers wise?
I have a thought on that. And again, I'm on my way out, but nevertheless, it is in my experience and in my opinion, this commission has been meeting virtually since COVID. Now, how we were able to function as a unit and to be successful in developing a camaraderie and relationships are key in anything that you do. And you can develop somewhat of a temporal relationship. But for the work that we do, I think it supports the development, the growth of individuals as we interact together in person. You get to really get the feel of individuals, and you get to see where you fit in the scheme of the work that we're doing. And if this is the other thing, everyone who applied to be on this commission apply to this commission. So in applying to the commission, you have the understanding should have been present that the meeting dates are the fourth Thursday, with some exceptions according to various community events. But that's what it is. It's an in-person fourth Thursday meeting, and that's what you agreed to. And so to be able to be successful in this, and also having an opportunity to meet the staff, interact with the staff, and get to know who they are and how you can support them, and vice versa. It is in my professional opinion that, and I may be outnumbered and that may be the case, but nevertheless, I believe that it would behoove us, if we want to continue to grow and develop this work, we at some point need to meet in person, need to develop some camaraderie and develop relationships, discuss what we're doing, who we are, and how do we continue to advance the social justice needs of our community and the DEI work of the department. So I vote for in person.
Thank you, Commissioner Wiggins. See a hand? Oh, okay, Miss Red is back. Okay.
Hey, I'm still here. To Commissioner Wiggins's point, it's not an all or none. I am the staff liaison for a board that meets quarterly, not monthly. But due to the composition of the board, they at the last time we revisited the issue, opted to meet in person during the months when there was more daylight, because some of the members had concerns about driving at night. And so for the fall and winter months, the meetings occur virtually. And then in the spring and summer months, the meetings occur in person. Not suggesting that particular schedule, but just saying it can be revisited at any time. So if you all want to, I wouldn't recommend necessarily voting on it every single meeting, because that may make it a bit difficult in terms of getting our marketing team to get the notices out and get the right meeting set up in the right way. But you can vote for the rest of this year and then revisit it, or you can vote for next month and revisit it, or just know that it doesn't have to be whatever decision you decide to go with tonight. It's not a permanent decision, and you can revisit the issue. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Rayner?
Yeah, so I see the value of meeting in person, and I would love to. My problem is work's not a valid excuse absence, and it's basically impossible for me to get from work by 5:30 p.m. to downtown Winston. So I don't know if the exact start time is set in stone, but that's sort of my issue, is work is, in the way.
Thank you, Commissioner Rayner. Are there any other commissioners that we have not heard from on this matter?
I guess I would say I have a dynamic position at the sheriff's office where I will be changing roles. And so that the hybrid of the availability of a Zoom meeting or in-person meeting, I actually came to the office today because I thought it was in person. So I'm okay either way, but just having the opportunity to be on the scene and being able to log in is pretty cool.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Little. Are there any persons that we have not heard from? With that said, Ms. Duncan, what are the numbers as it relates to in-person versus virtual?
Are we referring to tonight, like now or prior?
Right, yeah, just what we just discussed.
Oh, I have no idea. I was just, yeah. It wasn't, you have to inbox me or something. I mean, but I can also send out an email and we can do it that way instead. Have people think on my suggestion.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I
Are
don't.
we able?
Commissioner Parks, please continue.
Okay, I was just wondering, since everyone's on, can we just do it now and then just go from that consensus, or just make it like every other meeting? You know, just make it simplified.
So is that a motion? Are you making a motion to vote on it at this point?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to vote on it at this point.
Question: Can we amend that motion to vote on October, or are we voting on October, November?
So currently there's a motion on the board, on the floor, excuse me, there's a motion on the floor to make a vote tonight on in-person versus virtually. So if you want to have to follow through with that motion, right?
Okay, but is this for the remainder of this year or starting with the new year? Because I kind of like the suggestion that Commissioner Keisha mentioned about, you know, with the daylight saving times. And I work in Guilford County, so I'm coming in from Greensboro.
Dr. Christian, is there a possibility of doing a hybrid where commissioners, provided there's a quorum in person, can come and meet in person, and then commissioners who are not able to meet in person could then come in virtually to the in-person meeting? Is that possible?
Let me get my legal advice on that one.
Excuse me. I'll have to take a look at our ordinance. I know when council adopted or amended the ordinance to allow for virtual meetings, I don't know if they included the option for part of the board to be present physically and then part to participate electronically. I know they reserve that right for themselves, but I don't know what the ordinance says as it relates to board and commissions. So I will have to take a look at the ordinance and I can get that answer to you in the morning. Well, actually, I might be able to pull it up now.
Awesome.
But if in the event, I want to make sure I get the question right. So I'll email you and let you know for sure if remote participation is possible. So let me make sure I understand the question. Is remote participation possible if there is a quorum physically present and a member cannot be physically present but would prefer to participate virtually?
Right.
That what's being asked?
That is the question that I proposed.
Okay.
That if there's a quorum at a in-person meeting, can members of the commission also attend virtually?
Okay, I will take a look at that. As I said, I know council reserved that right for themselves. I'm just not sure if it carried over to boards and commissions, because typically what boards and commissions are allowed to do mirrors how council handles their meetings. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there may be quantifiers on when a member can participate virtually. So before I give an opinion, I just want to make sure I'm up to date. So I'll get that to you in the morning, Dr. Christian.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think it is still important for a vote to be made for those who want virtual versus those who want in person. So at least the record can be known from Ms. Carlin.
Would you like to make a motion, Commissioner Usher?
I make a motion that we take a vote on persons who chooses to be in person versus persons who chooses to be virtual for tonight's meeting recording.
Okay, to help me out, if we making that vote, can you put thumbs up for virtual so I can check it out?
Wait, you would have to do two separate votes.
Two separate votes, yeah. Yes, you would have to do two separate.
So yes,
unless you call our names out and we just say in person.
Okay.
Versus
that's fine.
Virtual.
And for clarification, can you make your motion one more time about what we are voting for? What we're are voting for, whether that is virtual meetings for the next meeting in October, or for the rest of the year.
I make a motion that we take a vote on meeting in person versus virtual for next meeting in October.
I would like to amend that motion, if I may, is that we would meet in person provided that we have a quorum, and if a quorum is not available, that we do meet virtually.
I agree with that. That amendment.
All right, then I second your motion. Was that in proper format, everyone?
I think so.
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
All right, properly seconded. We ask for a roll call vote.
Okay. Commissioner Amaro?
Either way, in person, virtual for next month.
Commissioner
Okay, in person, in person.
Commissioner Evans?
Did we lose our vice chair?
Vice Chair Evans?
He's muted.
In person. I was muted, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Kuma?
We might have lost that commissioner as well.
Commissioner Little?
Virtual.
Commissioner McKinney?
I vote for in person unless a quorum is not available, then we do virtual.
Commissioner Park?
Virtual.
Commissioner Reynaud?
Virtual.
Commissioner Reinhardt? Commissioner Usher?
In person.
And Commissioner Wiggins?
In person.
I think in person is 5, virtual is 3, 4, something like that.
So, Ms. Duncan, what were the final numbers?
I have 3, 4 virtual. 1 second. 3 virtual, I'm sorry. 2. And 5 in person.
Okay.
Now,
So
what
the
is
next
the
meeting,
quorum for a meeting?
So the quorum for a meeting, we've got, the numbers are as such. If we have 11, then we need to have 6 for a quorum. If we have 12, we need to have 7 for a quorum. We have 13 people, we need to have 7 for a quorum. If we have 18 people, we need to have 8 for a quorum. So a little over 50% is what I'm getting at. About 54%.
Yes.
How
Right
many
at
people are
50.
currently on the commission? Like, what is the number for us?
So the number tonight, how many do we have tonight? Ms. Duncan? Ms. Duncan?
Looks to be 22 on the call.
No, as far as commissioners.
I'm sorry, what was that?
How many commissioners do we have on the call tonight?
A couple of commissioners fell off. We had 9, and
Okay, so
we have 8 now.
okay, so at 8 we need to have 5 for a quorum and 3 for the majority.
I'm sorry, I'm really confused. I thought that a quorum was based on the total number of people on the commission. A quorum would be so it's not about how many people are on this call right now.
No, correct. So the total number of commissioners on the call is 8.
Right, but
So,
how many people are on the commission?
8.
On the commission is 13.
Okay, so we need 7 people to be a quorum, and we don't have a quorum of people voting for in person. So I'm confused by what the result of the vote is. Because it's a majority of the people here, but it's not a quorum for the commission. It seems like it's actually not a conclusive vote based on the way the motion was made.
Wait, I have a question. Are all the positions on the commission currently filled? Because if you have, like, let's say there are 13 spots on the commission, but you only have 11 commissioners appointed, you don't count the 2 vacant positions in terms of calculating your quorum.
So all the positions are filled.
Okay.
So what are we waiting for?
Is there a point? Is there a point of clarification that needs to be made?
I guess we're trying to decide how we're meeting in October.
Well, I guess from what our attorney says to us, we'll be doing it part in person and with the virtual option from the amendment from our new chair, McKinney, stated.
I believe we need to reach out to the commissioners about the next meeting on whether or not we will have a quorum for the meeting. And then we can determine whether that's going to be in person or virtual.
Can I make a point?
I can agree with that.
So if you determine in advance that you, because again, as I said, these meetings, if they're not in person, they have to be set up so that they can be streamed virtually because there is a public participation element. So if you would have to have, you would have to call the meeting to order before you could figure out whether or not you would have your quorum. Because as I said, it's either gonna have to, like, we can't switch it, is what I'm saying. So if it's either gonna have to be in person, and then if you don't have your quorum, you can either proceed on any items that don't require a vote, or you would recess the meeting to a later date and time and announce that date and time once it is set by the body.
Okay, so to
Right,
sort of,
but I'm sorry, like, I thought that what we were gonna do was take a roll call in advance, like what we did this month. Where Ms. Duncan sent out an email and we all said whether we could make it in person or not.
Okay, if you do that, because there is a time requirement by which notice must be given to the public, that roll call vote would have to occur early enough so that we could notify the public whether or not the meeting would be virtual or in person. What I'm saying is you can't say on the morning, if we post it, there'll be a meeting of the Human Relations Commission at 5:30 at City Hall, and then 9 o'clock that morning, you figure out you won't have a quorum. You can't switch it to a virtual meeting.
Oh, yeah. No, of course not.
Okay.
So if
So
it's simply driven by if
Mhm.
it's simply driven by an email, why can't that just happen and we know this by Friday or Monday? Is Monday coming?
Because he has he posted for the public.
And if my memory is correct, it has to be
How
posted
far
at
in
least
advance?
48 hours in advance.
Oh, well, that's more than enough time. But the email was sent and you got your requires by Monday.
I'm sorry.
I know I'm so new, but can I just say this? Because some of us, need a little bit more structure with the schedule, like me, because I do work in the evenings. And so that was one reason why I was making the motion before, as far as like going ahead and setting the schedule out. So that way we can know. And so if it's every other month that we're doing it virtually, we already know that if it's going to be in person every other month, because going back to like even what Ms. Wiggins was saying, it was set up that we were supposed to do these meetings in person. If y'all saying that city council or whomever else is doing these meetings in person or in virtually, or we're following in their pattern they already have set, for me personally, that will allow us to be more structured. And like you also said too, getting the information out for the public so they will know what's going on, because this is about the community. It's not just about us.
So what was
Is it possible for me to make another motion or no?
Well, I think you have a motion that may be passed or not passed based on the number of votes.
Right.
So what
Yes,
was the result of the previous vote?
The results of the previous vote was that it passed. The motion that was voting on was to have an in-person meeting, provided that we had a quorum. And if we didn't have a quorum, then we would do a virtual meeting. That motion passed, but it sounds like it was not in the proper procedure for what we need to do to schedule our next meeting.
What do you mean by proper procedure? Because you've got 13 members, you need 7 for a quorum. You have 8 votes.
I think it was not proper because I don't think every commissioner voted knowing that they were voting to meet virtually or to meet in person. It was not voting on the motion properly, which was to meet in person unless we didn't have a quorum, which was problematic because of the public need of being notified. So I'm not exactly sure where we go from here, but I'd be willing to entertain motions to try and fix this.
It sounds like there's a lot of support for the idea of having like every other month kind of thing, so we can get to know each other in person. And maybe that gives those of us who have trouble coming in person enough space to plan to come in person. And so I guess if it's proper, which I'm now really confused about, I'd like to make a motion, since this month was virtual, that we meet in person in October and virtually in November, with plan to continue with an alternating schedule.
Is there a second?
I second.
Properly being seconded, we ask for a vote.
Commissioner Murrow? I think she left us. Commissioner Evans? Vice Chair Evans?
Do you have hope, Ms. Duncan? Do we still have a quorum? If we have another one that dropped off, then that drops us below the quorum number.
5, 6, 7.
We have 7? If we have 7, then we can vote. If we don't have 7, we cannot vote.
McKinney, Evans, Little, Usher, Wiggins, Parks, and Rayner. Am I missing anybody?
I don't think Reinhardt, I don't think she's on there.
What?
She's
I'm
here.
on the committee.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good,
and
good.
I'm
I'm
here.
sorry.
But we need 8, is that correct?
I'm the one who made the motion, in fact.
She sure did.
No, we haven't heard from Ms. Reinhardt. That's what I
Reinhardt,
think
yes, we haven't heard from her.
at all.
So you need, right, so you only need 7 out of 13. So you have 8, so you can vote.
Yes, we can vote. And it was properly seconded. So we can go with the roll call vote.
Okay. Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Parks,
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Usher,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
Yay. We're meeting together in October. I look forward to it.
Sounds good. All right, so that's the new business. Any additional business?
I would like to say congratulations to Captain Little. So excited for your promotion and the fact that you are a part of this team, this body of work, but you have been for a period of time. So congratulations to you, very well deserved. We will continue to keep you and your family lifted in prayer, as well as all of our city officials and law enforcement. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Even though it's going to be rough for me to make the next meeting because I needed to be virtual. But I appreciate you, though.
And I just wanted to point out, I will have an answer to Dr. Christian as it relates to remote participation by commissioners for an in-person meeting. I just have to check the city ordinance to make sure council extended that opportunity to the commissions and boards as they did for themselves when they amended the ordinance earlier this year.
Attorney Red, can I just get Commissioner McKinney just to FaceTime me during the meeting?
Well, you certainly can participate in that way, but I don't know that you could be counted towards the number of commissioners needed for it to be a quorum in the event. Now, if I go check this ordinance and it says, yes, if the body is meeting in person and 1 or 2 members need to participate remotely for whatever reasons, because I know council created a list of categories in which remote participation was permitted. I just didn't want to speak out of turn and say that that was an option without confirming that.
Awesome.
Happy to help out Commissioner Little whenever I can.
Thank you.
So there needs to be a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that may be adjourned.
Seconded. We ask for a vote.
Vice Chair Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney,
Aye.
Commissioner Parks,
Aye.
Commissioner Raynor,
Aye.
Commissioner Usher,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wiggins.
Aye.
And shouldn't we say Chair Wiggins? I believe she is our interim chair. Congratulations to our new chair. All right, we're adjourned, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.